All right, looks like I've got some sound and we're recording, and we'll come back over here. This is part 2 of part 3 of the screencasts for BISS 4403 for today, Thursday, August the 30th. And as I'd mentioned in the message, email I sent everybody, pardon me, as well as the announcements and as well as in the screencast 1 of 1, I'm planning 1 of 3. I'm planning on chunking this thing down. I did about 37 minutes, so I did about half a class there. So it's quite possible I'm going to maybe do 15 minutes now, and then stop and do a third one, or I may do 2 of them. But I indicated I was going to do 3, so I'm probably going to break down the remaining 38 minutes into a couple of segments. And what I want to do here is let's go back up to the orientation section. Well, but the first thing I do is make sure that I review with everybody what we've got going on that's going to be due. This week you didn't have anything, but next week, a week from today, the 6th, you'll have the POTC exam. And that's chapter 1, and it's 75 minutes, and you have 75 minutes, and you have 30 items. So you have one attempt, only one attempt, okay? And then and you have 75 minutes to do it. You have 30 minutes. I really encourage you, do not, under any circumstances, think you could just sit down with the book and do this. You're going to need to read and take some notes. If you were wise and bought a digital copy of your book, that will be good because you could search for terms, etc., a lot faster. Anyway, I want to make sure that you know that's coming up a week from today. And this week we worked on the fact sales. And so this is fact sales access workshop number 2. So, and we talked about that in the video, how we take data from the warehouse and convert it, okay, into information, which is data. The information is data that can be used to make a decision. Actionable use is the term. Just look ahead here and you'll see. You'll have POTC chapter 5 and 6, and then we'll start moving into, in the weekend of the 18th and the 20th, we'll start moving into working with some code, and that'll be something that I think that you'll find it to be quite easy. Okay, now, and we did, of course, the upload for. And you have on the 11th and 13th, you have a couple of exams so that you know what's going on. And we have this POTC exam, chapter 1, and that one's due. Now, the 4 workshops, so when you do one of these access workshops, see, you'll want to upload them. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so we've done the first 2. So and today in the lecture today, which went awry over there in the lab, and now as I've spoken with you about the information design options, we go back into the Northwind Traders database, and we'll start to talk about these concepts. Now, I'm going to download this data warehouse architecture and concepts PowerPoint so I can more easily navigate where I want to go, because I want to talk briefly about the different types of designs of these and what we call a star versus that type of schema versus some others. And we'll save this. Now I'm ready to go into the slideshow. We'll do it from the beginning. Okay. And an operational database versus a data warehouse. And the decision-making hierarchy. And here's where, ironically, we begin to talk about limitations, and a lot of it is the lack of integration. So the Access Workshop 2, we see that we take data, we take a table, a fact table, and we export it, and then we can, we can do what we want to with it in terms of doing computations, mathematical computations, or statistics, running statistical, computing statistics, or providing that data in terms of a visual fashion, charts, tables, whatever. And as I talk about that, one of the issues is missing database management system features. Now, here's a key part that, and this is probably, from operational data and external data sources, integrated and transformed data. And what that means is we collect, I talked today about unstructured data and gave you some examples of that. And we take that and we transform it into data that we can use, primarily put it to a table, and then optimize it for reporting and periodic integration. And this all just is a balancing act between you see the processing and then business intelligence processing. So we're balancing the current needs versus future needs and more complex needs of data. In a warehouse, we don't have to normalize the data. We don't have to make sure everything has a primary key, etc. And we talk about normalization so that we can, every record is unique. Tables are tied together using a primary key and a foreign key type of setup. In warehouse, we can do star schemas and we can do multidimensional data cubes. And you remember, I have a PDF over there on the analytic cube. It's exactly what we're talking about. So we're looking at more dimensions. This is an operational database. Now again, I think we had gotten there maybe when things went awry. But again, you have a table and you have a primary key. And then we have connections between them. And the employee table takes data and sends it back. It takes data on products, orders, which would be quantity, and then places. And you can see how that works itself out. Now they show us a data warehouse, and notice something very different. At the heart of the data warehouse is sales, activity. That's why why a fact table is so essential. And you can see the primary keys. And you can see how they are fed in. This is more like what we would call a star schema. You have a fact table that is at the center of all of these other tables. This item, for example, is kind of a hybrid. It's really a dimensional table. The customer, this down here is for sure a dimensional table, that customer table. The time dimension, they even go so far as to call it dimension. The time number, the day, the month, and then the store. And so you could see all of these feeding into the sales table. All right. I'm going to close that off. And again, there's a lot of good feedback, a lot of good information there for us. We'll pop back here for a minute. Here are the course resources. And this is an older reference, but it's talking about the use of analytics to predict housing markets. Again, here's another example. Touch screens. Now we all know that they have these, but basically now you're tapping or swiping that executes a query. And you can see some of these databases, the National Disaster Recovery Database, Search Engine Land. We'll go there, take a look at it real quick. And these are all, this is news about all of these search engines that are out here. They're all dependent upon a data warehouse. Without a data warehouse, these are no good because you can't get the data that you want, not quickly and effectively. And now they're also talking about data analysis. So just an entire, it's devoted entirely to search engines. This is an this is an older resource, but one that's quite good. Why Facebook is teaching its machines to think like humans. And we're seeing this machine intelligence, artificial intelligence. And there, of course, is the analytical cube. Here's a product, CitySense, that's organized around the database. And I guess that one is no longer there. So I'll just go ahead and remove it. The iTrade Fair. All right. And this is run by GoDaddy, and taking a domain name and turning it into a website. Now, again, this search for domains is nothing. This is designed. This is a form that lets you run a query. Now, I want to take a little bit of time. I think it might be worthwhile to do it. pop over here. And you're going to hear some terms like data mining and the growth of it, and you're going to hear about unstructured data. And you'll see some interesting databases that you go out and take a look at. Again, these are made possible with data warehouses. In fact, the self-driving car is just absolutely amazing what you can do with it. Well, and there are always fun ones that you can do. Let's go back to Northwind Traders, okay? And we'll download that. And one of the things that I wanted to do was to let you see a good example of a data warehouse. This is, as you could, I think you can tell, is a data warehouse that revolves around sales activities. Now, you can have a data warehouse that revolves around pharmaceuticals, medicines. It's whatever object you choose or thing that you choose to deal with. But the whole idea is this. The tables, you have dimension tables. You remember we talked about using them to make a lookup table. You use the dimension tables to create a record that's attached to some kind of fact, a date when something occurred, or a volume or number associated with some transaction. That's typically going to be what you're after. And that's what the whole warehouse concept is about. Now, I also wanted to do some things here to just kind of get us used to walking around and working with data. So we did this in 1123, but not to the extent we'll be doing it here. I want to click up here for a moment on the database tools, and let's click on the relationships, and you'll see how these tables are all interconnected. And as you start to move them out, and I'm going to close this shutter bar for just a minute, if I can. And you can start to see, when I talk about that star, you start to see that with all of these different variables cast into them. You can see how those are all connected. And notice we have a one-to-many relationship. A data warehouse will typically feature, as we've talked about before, dimension tables that create columns or attributes. And then we include numeric data, fact data. But notice the structure of these. It's almost always where we have a table that has a primary key that's linked into a table in which you could have many records based upon that ID or that dimension and its number. And this is kind of like, okay, I have a warehouse and I have a place where they deliver the stuff to me. And then that's my receiving area. And then I begin to put it throughout the warehouse. And then we have people who come and get the data, and they get the order and put it together. It's really no different than a physical warehouse is a nice model for a data warehouse. The concept is pretty much the same. Okay, now, and like I said, if we begin to pull this out, we'll start to see a center emerge. And that's something where everybody you can see shippers, order tax, sales, products, details, purchase orders. I'll put direct relationships. And we have all relationships. I won't close it off. Oh, we don't want to do anything saving with it. Now I'm going to open the navigation pane again because we're just doing a little bit of work. And we're going to click create. And you'll see here, and this will start to get us ready for some work that we're going to do here in a week or two, a couple of weeks, I think. We can run queries. Now we have a query wizard. We can run a query in a design view. And you'll see that as we begin to take chunks of code and throw them in to run them. And we'll be working with some data. Now, let's look at this query. It's called sales analysis. Or is it a table? Oh, it's a query. I thought it was a query. Let's look at this for a moment. Notice that it has an order ID. It has an order date, the employee who made the sale, the customer name, the product name, the sales amount, the employee that made the sale, so they get their commission, customer, the year, and so forth. Now, this sales analysis is a fact table. It's a fact because it has data in it. Anytime a table has stuff you can count, like money or items sold or items delivered, you have a fact table. Okay? Now I'm going a little bit slow with it because if you rush through this too fast, I've learned, you can kind of miss the point. And the whole idea is that I know the important variables because those are dimensions. And then I know what I do with that data or will do with it. And of course, I can export this. I can export into Excel, or I can do some work with it. Let's go below and take a look at the design view. And this is a view that's not unfamiliar to you. We did this when we worked in 1123, and you're going to see it. Now I'm going to scroll this down just a hair so we can look at this query and its sources, the table it draws data from. And you see us talking about this star schema. Now I want you to notice something here. I'm going to bring this down just a little bit more. Okay, and you see the orders table seems to be the preeminent table. And we have kind of a star schema, if you will. Now, to see some classic pieces of this, and I'm going to close this off now. And I'm going to go back over to Vital Source real quickly. That's where I have my bookshelf. And we'll sign in here. Ah, my bad. There we go. What? All right, let me try this one more time. I'm gonna just go over to Vital Source. Let's see, that'll do it. Oh, I hate this when I get this. As you can see, I'm having a week. I'm having a day. This is crazy. I don't get this at all. And I'm going to try it. I do not know I'm getting this. All right, sign in. I guess I had to let it know I was not a robot. Okay, in the POTSI book and the textbooks here, I'm going to pop those up for just a second because I'll make sure we're good as far as that goes. And so we'll move over here to the announcements. Pardon me, nothing. We'll move to the modules. Excuse me. And let's find that syllabus. Some really interesting stuff you can do with the database, things you can look at. And here's the syllabus. I should have just gone into the files and done that. I want to ensure that you make sure that I emphasize the textbooks, okay? The first is the Patrick textbook. And I'm going to go out to Amazon. And And I'm going to grab the ISBN, excuse me. I'll throw that in, probably going to be faster. I need to put 978 there. And there it is, SQL Fundamentals. That's the Patrick text. That's where we'll be drawing out and getting code and running it. Now, the next textbook is the one by Sharda. Pardon me, Potsy. That's I've got them there listed, I think, in fairly decent order, but I probably should reverse them. But the Potsy textbook, and we'll go find it over at VitalSource. Okay, and this is exploring Microsoft Access. Now, they give us some hands-on exercises here, and adding controls to forms and things of that nature. And I'm going to go back up here to the chapter 1. And they give us just some basic ideas here. Now, I'm just going to search the course for it. A data warehouse. I guess they're not going to play nice. Okay. And then the business intelligence text shows us how we create dashboards using the warehouse, the data warehouse, as the foundation. Now, there are just so many excellent examples. I like this text because I think it breaks things down to a very, very simple idea. And I know that it does. Now, here they talk about table creation and extracting data from them. And I want you, if you would, to take some time to look at it. And you can see here they show you in a simple a simple bank database. Here it is in a rough branch, and notice these are all dimension tables. How do I know that? Because there's not stuff I can add and subtract or any of that type of thing. Even the zip code or the phone number are really not numbers. They're items that are distinct and unique. You can't, there's no point in averaging the phone numbers of all the clients. It's just stupid. So now the branch table is a little different because it has a start date, and the accounts table has an open date. So they're close, but no cigar. As they talk about, this is the normalization, put stuff in their data lost about. And notice, I've talked about the primary key and the foreign keys. Notice how these tables are tied together. The customer ID and the customer table is handled to the account, and then the branch ID in the branch table, which is this is the primary key. It's linked to the branch ID in the accounts table. And it's strung together in that manner, in that manner. And then they begin to give us some of the views. That's why I got the text so you could see. And the data types and users. And using a foreign key. And they give us some information on the use of these tables, setting up a field, a primary key, and all that. Okay? Well, folks, I think you can understand now where we're heading with this and how a data warehouse works and how it becomes a foundation for a business intelligence and a foundation for actionable data, i.e. information. All right, I'm gonna end this here, and if it gets us past the 75 minutes, that's fine. But I'm gonna do a third one anyway, which will take past 75 minutes because I want us to take a look some more at the design of databases, the schema. Okay. So thank you, folks, and I'm going to come up here and I'm going to stop the share, and I'll stop the recording in the meeting.